What is the Matrix?
Oh man. So if you look at the Matrix, it's just a set of programs. If we understand that we live in three different worlds at the same time: the spiritual world, the spiritual world, the mental world, the physical world. Spirit, mind, body. Spirit, mind, body. Okay, so we're in three different worlds simultaneously. They're not places. They're all literally right here. A lot of us think that we're our body. We think that we're our race. We think that we're our religion. We think that we're our political preference, our sexual orientation. Those are all taking place on the physical plane. But see, the Matrix is the physical plane. So what do? In order to govern the plane below, the physical plane, I'd have to go to the plane above. So what the Matrix is essentially a set of programs that push your buttons on the mental plane to keep you stuck in the physical plane. So which is why I can sit here and pump out a bunch of stuff about your body, and now you'll think that you are your body. And now by you thinking that you're your body, you're stuck in the physical plane. This is how you broke free from the Matrix, was through your mind. This is why you see this. Life is mental. That's what life is. So when you have an awareness mentally of what you actually are, you take control of your thoughts. You're responsible for your thoughts. You're accountable for your emotions. Now you can start to essentially dissect and disintegrate yourself from the Matrix, and now the Matrix can't control you.
An Autistic Society by Charles Reagan Swindoll. How many of you saw or read the story Soylent Green? The story surrounds a government secret hidden beneath a cracker called Soylent Green, which in a future world becomes the food all the masses eat. In the book, the year is 2022 if you can believe it, toxic atmospheric conditions combined with endless wars have driven future humanity into madness and destitution. All the people who are left are starving and hopeless, wandering in the streets aimlessly dying. It is a tragic situation. A totalitarian government has taken over the world, and life has become a Mad Max-like dystopia. There is no middle class, just the elites in their high-rise ivory towers, and the poor who live impoverished on the streets. Sound familiar? Soil has been destroyed by the untenable ecological conditions, so no one can grow crops. Small pockets of people have gathered where free government food is available, and every day, a government worker pulls a cart filled with green crackers through the slums where destitute people survive. The crackers are handed out as the only food available to eat. No one knows or questions what the crackers are made of, because beggars can't be choosers. There is the elite who do not want the public to know the truth of their situation, and the desperate public, who must discover the truth to survive their situation and vanquish their captors. No one is coming to save the public, or even inform them they are eating corpses. They must each awaken to their situation, and through sheer numbers, save themselves from the few elites controlling them. Sound familiar? Amidst the crowds of people is an investigator, Frank Thorne, who finds out the crackers are made from the corpses of the dying public. The dead bodies are collected from the cities. They are hauled off to processing plants where they are liquefied and manufactured into green-colored crackers. This truth is the driving impetus and intensity undergirding the story. It's a big government secret that can't get out, yet Thorne must somehow inform the public what he knows. Thorne discovers the elites have sequestered food production facilities and turned them into body recycling plants that produce the crackers fed to the public. The story is Frank's struggle to inform the public of this atrocity, but to his bewilderment, he finds people don't want to hear his conspiracy theory. Sound familiar? Hitler once said, "The bigger the lie, the more people will believe it." This essay presents cases to Hitler's point. I'd like to add the concern of Frank Thorne to my list of 4 revelations coming to us all in the Great Awakening. First, Christianity is a mental apparatus which seizes identity, the entelechy, and free thought, not a saving intermediary to access God. Second, the Eden story is the story of our genetic manipulation and capture, not our creation and sovereignty. Third, the earth is currently a human farm, not a free realm. Fourth, the human race, at this time, is a captured and manipulated species, a food and energy source, not a free-thinking, self-led, sovereign society. This explains why they keep finding human DNA and feces in fast food meats. It explains the disappearance of more than 8 million children per year worldwide. It explains what natural flavoring actually is in most every major food product. It explains why hundreds of manufacturing plants were burned to the ground over the last 2 years. Soylent food processing plants. It renders why in the movie The Matrix, people are liquefied and turned into black goo, then fed to the babies. You remember the scene, don't you?
The human body generates more bioelectricity than a 120-volt battery and over 25,000 BTUs of body heat. Combined with a form of fusion, the machines had found all the energy they would ever need. There are fields near, endless fields, where human beings are no longer born. We are grown. For the longest time, I wouldn't believe it. And then I saw the fields with my own eyes. Watched them liquefy the dead so they could be fed intravenously to the living. And standing there, facing the pure, horrifying precision, I came to realize the obviousness of the truth. What is the Matrix? Control. The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world, built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into this.
No. I don't believe it. It's not possible.
I didn't say it would be easy, Neo. I just said it would be the truth.
Stop. Let me out. Let me out. I want out.
Like Frank Thorne discovered, the difficult part of revealing our actual situation is what happens to people when they find it out. If folks are not prepared, they will overload like a battery that's overcharged, or a computer fried from a power surge. Most will totally reject ideas outside the accepted purview. The pop culture claim, The Matrix was not a movie, it was a documentary, will become quite devastating when folks find out that wasn't a metaphoric statement. The end isn't for everybody is another way of saying The Matrix wasn't fiction, but my concern in this essay is not the consumption of human bodies, it is the consumption of human minds. Because the depth psychology motivating a Soylent Green public is the same disparaging psychology that underlies bogus science, allopathic medicine, fear-based religions, and mind programming. All of us have been captured in one way or another by the fraudulent systems that have constricted the development of society. What we have been experiencing for the last few years is an intentional deprogramming exercise to loose people from control. It's been as intentional as the winter stream which carves a path for spring flooding. Some new saplings will make the transition from stream to rapids, some won't. Like I've said countless times, life is a pattern of now you see it, now you don't. Not everyone is ready for an awakened world, and we are in the culling process. Those who fearlessly awaken will survive. Those that refuse to awaken will be recycled. Nature is merciless. The world is not what we have been told, and we each must accept some very difficult perspectives which counter our programmed assumptions. Integration of hard-to-accept realities is the only way to understand our real situation. To fight new revelations is simply to boast the ironic phrase, "Stop confusing me with facts, I've already made up my mind," says the evolutionist, says the creationist, says the doctor, says the pastor, says the scientist, says the ideology. We are a normalized and therefore a spellbound society. We clutch to a world created by our captors. Our own stubborn, resolute, programmed short-sightedness has led to our own demise. Each of us is responsible to recover our situation. Mass awareness of our plight is the only option to escape our current entanglement with evil. It is a practical matter relevant to our real situation, and so essential to our survival as a species. So I'm not asking you to believe anything. I'm not asking you to subscribe to any religion or new science. I'm asking you to doubt what you already know. I'm asking you to squeeze your mind of the MK Ultra pus called normalization. I'm offering permission through reason to see yourself differently. I'm suggesting the question, who are you? For the answer begs the question, how does Enigma experience time? And to this question, the conditioned Western mind capitulates. If one singular focus is all that can be managed, an awakened world cannot be experienced. For I cannot throw the ball if I am not willing to let it go. And if I am not willing to let go of the world as taught to me, I cannot realize the world I am actually in. As Joseph Campbell said, we must be willing to let go of the life we have planned so as to experience the life that is waiting for us. It is here where our responsibility lies. Are the religions and sciences of the West stubbornly claiming their focus of the world is the only reality? Is the Western understanding of a personified deity, Jesus, Muhammad, Yahweh, the personification of God to which all societies must submit? How is that reasonable in a world as historically diverse, spiritually complicated, and, very practically speaking, scientifically constrained as our own? Is not the Great Awakening a moment when we let go of the ancient ways which brought us to the need to awaken in the first place? At some point, one must leave the raft at the shore so as to explore the land unimpeded. A religious or scientific society is not working to unite the world when they take their own convictions and imperialistically paste them onto the public. In such capacity, they are not acting in a responsible, uniting matter. They are acting like an oligarchy. Because religious and scientific totalitarians believe their own convictions are the exclusively right ones, they will not accept any other beliefs but the overbaked versions handed to them by former dominators. For intolerance is the hallmark of all Western religions and science, and this also is their giveaway. Theology is simply a methodology of putting God into rigor, and then living inside that ordained, structured, handed-down spiritual convention. It is not reality. It is an indoctrinated schism, a mental construct, an apologetic puzzle to elicit focus and thus control. What the devotee does not realize is their spirit has been transmogrified into matter by substantiating sin as one's identity as sinner. This conflict can only be reconciled by spiritual convention, which is an oxymoron. The Christian, the Muslim, the Jew, is unaware of their oxymoronic infection, and this is why they seek so desperately to spread it. My point here is, the West has become spellbound with a conflict-oriented, materialistic understanding of themselves and the world. They cannot see any other world but the one based in sin resolution, because they themselves identify as sinners, a form of materialized evil or ego. They cannot realize the universe isn't captured with conflict, because they themselves are oriented to conflict by egoistically identifying as a sinner, rather than eternally oriented as a spontaneous miracle. It is human society that must disentangle itself from a paternalistic matrix formed by Rome. Therein is the problem. This is not something that can be spoken. It's something the public, specifically the West, must, like Neo, see for themselves. Conflict is not inherent to the universe, nor us. We are not material. We are spirit and matter coexisting. It is the mind that must be resolved, not the universe. The Western society situation poses a significant challenge to the Great Awakening, because those conditioned by Western spirituality and science don't want any other world than the one to which they have been indoctrinated. See the problem? Western minds are unwilling, also known as intolerant, to transcend past the idea of a conflict-oriented world, because they are oriented to God through sin absolvement and to science through evolution. These beliefs cause an identity crisis which can't be fixed by either, because both cause the crisis. For without sin, the Western spiritual life has no initiating point. For without sin, Jesus is an unnecessary condition to experience God. For without sin, nobody needs to be saved. These are irreconcilable consequences in a mind brainwashed with the agency of sin. Likewise, believing in evolution foists lack of meaning, since life is whittled down to a greed and survival dog-eat-dog world based on blind chance from a universe exploded into existence from nothing for no reason. A lower three-chakra existence that leads to more and more emptiness, since looming death awaits with a gaping mouth and appetite for destruction. If you look closely, the Western situation is just like a child with autism. The strongest autistic cases will not have capacity for a larger world than the 2-foot space around them. It doesn't matter what is done. Their brain simply does not have the capacity for a larger world than the space they occupy. The Christian, the Muslim, the Jew, the evolutionist are all in the same boat prospectively as the autistic. They are incapable to see any larger world than the one to which they have been indoctrinated. They embrace their ideology and form their life around it. For instance, if any parent of a severely autistic child is asked if they have given up the idea of normalcy and have accepted whatever normalcy can be had in the midst of their autistic situation, they would respond with a resounding yes. Because the autistically experienced parent no longer lives day to day wishing for a miracle or thinking something is going to drastically change with their child. They live day to day thankful for the connection they have with them as they are. To live otherwise just serves to fuel anxiety, foment frustration, and introject needless expectation into the relationship. What I'm trying to say is, the autistic situation is accepted for what it is, and the parent forms their life around the situation. It's the same psychological situation with the Western spiritual and scientific societies. Everyone in the West has been conditioned to a God or meaningless universe handed down by controllers. Identity as a sinner and separate from this God is not only unquestionably accepted, but willfully embraced by the Christian. God is just a silly human idea to force meaning and love into an empty universe, says the scientist. So just like the parent who accepts their autistic setting, the convert, the evolutionist, accepts their sinner or meaningless identity with aplomb. Neither fight their situation. They adapt their life to it, just like the parent who adapts their life to autism. Let's consider Western spirituality for a moment. Grace has been so welded to the mind of the West, they can't imagine not being a sinner, because then grace is not required. So any world beyond sin and atonement cannot be experienced by a Westerner, because like a fully charged battery or programmed bot, they don't have the capacity for anything more. And here's the devastating part. They don't want it either. Because if they are not a sinner, don't need grace, and are not able to hand the wheel to Jesus or Muhammad or Yahweh, life has no meaning or sense. Atheism is the assumed recourse, because without religious absolutes, converts feel like the autistic child feels when handed a foreign food, different time schedule, or new caretaker. What happens when the autistic is handed a change in schedule or unfamiliar food? Yelling, frustration, insensibility, resistance, fear. The response of the Western mind to a universe without Jesus, Muhammad, or Yahweh is the 5 kleshas: ignorance, fear of the unknown; ego, fear of oneself; attachment, fear of loss; aversion, fear of change; fear of God. The devotee will resist any reality but the Christian one till families are split, friendships are alienated, God is personalized, and the universe remains conflict-oriented. Because at the end of the day, the Christian, the Muslim, the Jew, the scientist, is developmentally autistic. They endlessly run on the hamster wheel called indoctrination while expecting a different result. This is known as insanity. They don't realize they have to get off the wheel of belief, or they won't have any other experience than the belief allows, no matter how fast they run, technologically advanced they get, hard they pray, turn the other cheek, or experience counterwise. The point? One has to participate in new experiences to have a new experience, as Yogi Berra would have put it. In the book Parsifal, The Story of the Grail, the protagonist, Parsifal, came upon a monk named Trevisant. In their dialogue about the world, Parsifal informed Trevisant he hated God. He told Trevisant God had let him down because God had not honored his good deeds, and left him high and dry in life. So he didn't love God, he actually hated God. Parsifal was self-consumed. and Trevisan knew it. Trevisan's response was brilliant. He told Percival, God has as much hate on offer as love. It's simply which is wanted that determines which is experienced. The choice is the individual's. So if one wants hate, then hate God, and God will hate equally back. Meaning, life will be filled with malice and scorn, habit and vice, pain and subjection, and hate will fuel blame-filled experiences. Living through all of life in a hating and resisting posture will bring about an adversarial life, and if that's the life you want, then that's the life you'll get. On the other hand, if the experience of love is the telos, then love God, and God will love equally back. Meaning, life will be filled with relationships oriented to compassion rather than conflict, laughter rather than scorn, acceptance rather than intolerance. And if that's the life you want, that's the life you'll get. The choice was Percival's, the choice is yours. Can you see the responsibility in Trevisan's approach? He doesn't enable passivity by telling Percival to pray about it. He points Percival to a higher, more conscious awareness of himself. So Percival motivates himself to change, rather than asking God to change him. This is critical as ownership leverages self-responsibility. Percival realizes the responsible action by his own self-realization, not through sin, grace, or conflict. There is no sin to atone, or eternity to secure, but simply awareness of a larger perspective of oneself and the world. There is no conflict to resolve, because the conflict was only in Percival's head, not inherent to life. The world is now twisting and squeezing us out of the construct to which we have been normalized. Reality is becoming so far-fetched that it can't be believed. Can you see the self-correcting logic in play? Society has become so inhumane, so grotesque, so disorienting, so technologically bankrupt, financially fraudulent, and scientifically empty. The public refuses to believe anything anymore. And that's the point where each individual steps off the hamster wheel of indoctrination and onto the grounds of self-realization. Because it is only at the precipice that we become mentally unstable enough to reshape our minds. Crisis breaks the mind, insensibility brings us all to the breaking point, and necessity then initiates development. That's the logic of what's happening currently. Change perspectives or fall off the cliff. The choice is entirely yours, and nature is down with either because recycling is part and parcel of the universe. Sanctity is relative. Death begets life. I'm here to encourage mental sobriety through pointing out over-obvious patterns. This will foster the Western mind to the brink of irrationality, and from that space each can build a larger, more aware, more tolerant, self-empowering perspective. A perspective that unites rather than separates society into in-groups and out-groups. The autistic spectrums called scientific reductionism and the agency of sin must be dissolved so that each Christian, Muslim, Jew, and scientist can save themselves from mental capture so a larger experience that is awaiting them can be realized. The days of enslavement have come to an end, my friend, for greater love has no human than the one who knows themselves completely. This applies to both the scientific and spiritual characteristics of us all. For we are beautiful creatures from nature, not captured sinners needing atonement, or chance happenings from nothing for no reason. We are, in fact, an enigma composed of authentic spontaneity, indeed, the essence of nature, and so the essence of God. Stop selling yourself short with constricting ideologies that pinch your identity and entitle your ego. For life is an enigma no ideology can endow, bestow, claim, or submit. It is from larger perspective that we discover a larger reality, and nobody can walk through that door but you. Soylent Christianity, Islam, Judaism, or scientism is not our proper nourishment, for we are beyond religious and scientific conventions. Who we really are is far past any short-sighted idea like being a sinner, fallen from grace, or a chance happening. On the contrary, we are the grace. We are not sinners. We are the light. We are not fallen. We are balanced. We are not chance. We are consciousness manifest. In fact, we are far past any materialistic idea of ourselves, for we are eternal beings experiencing time. Stand and recognize who you are, my friend, for you are not what the rulers of the earth claimed you to be. Because you're explicitly a human being, but implicitly an enigma. The same enigma that you see all about you on this planet, that you see in the universe. You are that same mystery. And you will spend your life in awe of that if you understand the gravity of that. And you won't need laws and theology to fall to your knees and cry in thankfulness for your life. And it has nothing to do with being sinful or being saved.